Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hello, Walnut. It is me, Laz, here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday. And this week, I am very excited to have this guest on board. She is a mindset and manifestation coach, and we're going to learn all about her delicious business today. Efia, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yay, thank you for being here. Before we start, would you like to please introduce yourself and no, let's just start there. If you could introduce yourself, please, and then we'll go from there.
So, hello, I am Efia. I'm a mindset and manifestation coach. And really, what I'm passionate about is to help women stop settling and to confidently manifest their extraordinary lives. And I feel that so many of us go through life on autopilot, and that the work I do is about helping women find that inner permission slip to stop doing what they believe they should be doing and to lean into what they're truly here to do and who they're truly here to be.
I love that. That is so, I feel like that is such a loving description of who you are and what you do. Would you be able to share with the walnuts, Ifia, how did you get to where you are now? Like, was there something that particularly happened in your life, or a thought or feeling that came over you? Like, how did you get from where you were to decide that you are a mindset and manifestation coach in service of other brave women?
I think that there are actually many things that happened on my journey. So I grew up in the care system, and then I was adopted at age 3. And then when I was around 10 years old, my mom actually fell ill with breast cancer, and she struggled with breast cancer for 4 years and passed away when I was 14. So at 14, my sister, my brother, and I were orphaned. And because my mom was a single parent, we didn't have anyone else to look after us. So we actually ended up living with a family friend from that point. And I experienced a lot of grief at a young age. And, after my mom passed away, my gran passed away 6 months after that. Then I had my friend at school pass away a year after that. So it felt like a really traumatic time, in that all I saw around me was loss. So for me, what really got me through that time was like, oh, I just want to have what everyone else at school has. I want to have normal things. I want to go for sleepovers after school and not worry about like coming home and like, is my mom going to be there? So I grew up with that belief of just wanting to be normal. But what I realized is that I had been limiting myself by that belief of I just want to be normal and I just want to get by. And that I actually could give myself the permission to dream a little bigger and to create an extraordinary life, and to not just settle for what I thought, would this is the end of the line for me, or this is what's available for me. I think there's a statistic about care leavers is that you're more likely to see the inside of a prison than the inside of a university. And I was like, statistics like that are not necessarily empowering, but I don't want to be a victim of my circumstances. I want to achieve all these incredible things despite my circumstances. And I had a journey with mental health, as you would, going through those things at such a young age, anxiety, depression. And I also had, for 7 years, an undiagnosed chronic illness, which I now know to be endometriosis. So I was also suffering from chronic pain. So all of those things led to me really having a difficult time of life for a lot of it, and also struggling a lot with my identity as a Black woman growing up in Scotland, as a Black woman growing up to mixed race parents, as a Black woman growing up to no parents. So all of these things combined led to a breaking point at 2016, where I'd gone back to university to study for my master's. And I realized that during the course of that time, I didn't want to be there, that I had just gone back to study my master's out of, well, I guess this is what I could do. I'm smart. I'm good at studying. I guess this is where I could go next. I don't really know what I want to do for my career. But I realized pretty soon into that degree that I was miserable. Also, my friends I was hanging out with had gone for similar reasons as I was, and we were all just miserable together. So it wasn't a particularly enjoyable time. And around that time, I just, I just had enough. The depression reached ahead, the anxiety reached ahead. I just felt like I couldn't go on anymore. And then I went from that position where I was at the beginning of the year, just feeling like so lost and so ready to give up, to the end of the year, having been on this personal development journey, this conscious manifestation journey, this really a spiritual awakening, to really falling a lot deeper in love with myself and deciding, okay, if anything is possible, what do I actually want to create? And is the life that I'm living now in alignment with that? No. Okay, what changes are we going to make? And then seeing such a dramatic transformation in my own life and falling more in love with myself and manifesting incredible experiences and people and relationships. If I could do this for myself, I want to help other people have that for themselves as well. And I think we don't need to get to the breakdown to have the breakthrough. We can make a conscious choice to have the breakthrough now. And that's really what my work is about and why I'm so passionate about it.
I love that. And it's like, because you've been down that road, you know what the essential like breakdown can be, but that you don't necessarily have to get there to really enjoy and create this like beautiful life that you kind of have now. I noticed also that you're not living in Scotland anymore, right? You've moved to, is it Melbourne?
Yes,
So
yes.
what prompted, like, how did we get to the other side of the world? Let's just go there real quick because I'm a little bit of a travel buff.
So I was coming to, I was halfway through my master's degree at uni, and I still was like, not really sure what I want to do for a career. And I was like, you know what, I deserve some time out. I want to take some time out. And I discussed it with a friend, and she was like, oh, yeah, I want to do that too. And we both were like, oh, let's go to Australia for a year. And so that was something that we decided to do. We decided we are going to travel for 7 weeks in Southeast Asia first, and then move to Australia for a year together. I'd never done anything like that, such a big trip before, but it just sounded so exciting to me. And then about 3 weeks before we were due to go, my friend said that she wasn't going to be coming anymore and that I should go by myself. So that was just like a huge shock. I wasn't expecting that. I also didn't really feel very prepared or ready to solo travel. It was something that was not even on my radar. But I decided to do it anyway. And that 1 year turned into 5 years and counting. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh my gosh, I knew I had to ask about the travel because I feel like travel is such like a part of walnutting, and especially if you end up solo traveling. I think it's such like an awakening of the self, and I think that probably that would have been a big, excuse me, part of your personal development journey as well, to actually do that. How do you feel on like the 5 year end of that? Like, I imagine that would have been pretty bloody scary.
Yeah, at the time it was terrifying. I was
Mm.
worried that I wouldn't know how to navigate places. I can barely read Google Maps, never mind like in a foreign country. I can't even read it in Melbourne. I was worried I wasn't going to make friends. I was worried I wasn't going to know what to do or run out of money or something terrible happened. But when I actually got out there within like the first 24 hours of being there, I was like, I absolutely made the right decision. And this is just mind blowing. And then from that solo trip, which was a bit of an unexpected solo trip, every year after that, I went somewhere solo intentionally by choice. So I'd spend like 2 to 3 months of the year abroad. Obviously, that's not been a thing since 2019, but that
Yeah.
was, yeah, a big part of my lifestyle.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, well, I'm so happy you found a home in Melbourne. I really love Melbourne. I'm such a geek. I love the library. I love the library in the city there, but and really good macarons that they have there, but macaroons. But congratulations. I'm so happy for you that you found a nest in a place that that you can grow and be yourself and all the things. And I just wanted to go back to that feeling that you mentioned earlier about like, I just want to be normal. When you were younger and things like that, because I feel like when as a walnut on a journey, it is always really hard to compare yourself to others and really want to fit in and quote unquote be normal. How did you kind of like get over that that external looking to everyone else versus actually coming inward and finding that like self-love that you mentioned and being at peace with yourself and all the things?
A huge part of it is reflection. And I don't think that people typically often stop to look at their lives and what they've achieved and what they've done. And although I was saying, I just want to be normal, I just want to be normal, I was actually doing all of these extraordinary things. I was getting scholarships that other people weren't going for. I was having all these incredible opportunities to travel overseas. At one point, I won this scholarship to work in the US for 3 months. And typically these are, they're paid for by companies, but you don't know who's paid for the sponsorship. But for mine, they were like, no, we want to sponsor this person. And they were actually based in the US. So they were like, we want to meet you while you're over here. Um, and I remember I went for breakfast with this guy who'd sponsored my internship, and he bought me this book, which was Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. It was about women in leadership. And he gave it to me and he was like, yeah, I want you to read this. I know that this is going to be really powerful for you as a female leader. I'm like, why does he think that I'm going to be a leader? I'm like, it was just not even on my radar. Entrepreneurship was not on my radar at that point. And I'm like, this guy's like kind of nice, but crazy. Like this is just not for me. But what I realized is I actually had been showing up in leadership roles in every single area of my life. I just hadn't actually taken the time to acknowledge it. So I think when we can be really introspective and also very honest with ourselves, that the stories that we're telling ourselves are actually quite far from the reality that we're actually living and the depths of how incredible we already are.
Mm, yeah, that's so powerful, and links to that, like you mentioned earlier as well, that like giving yourself that inner permission too. Like I think it actually takes a lot of genuine courage to like slap yourself on the butt a little bit and say, I did a really good job and I'm allowed to behave this way because of this, or whatever. Do you want to talk a little bit more about giving, not necessarily women, but giving yourself that permission?
Yeah, I think, it's very easy to, and partly, Disney superheroes, whatever, to blame. It's like, oh, someone else is going to come in and save me. But while
Mm.
you're waiting for that someone else to come in and save you, you're actually outsourcing and externalizing your own power. So yeah, maybe you will get it one time or two time, but when you're always relying on someone else to give you that, then you're living your life for other people, and you're not actually creating the life that you want to live. You're creating the life that other people want you to live, which is only hurting you. That other person's going to move on with whatever's next for them, and you're going to be stuck like, how did I get here? This was never for me. This is never meant to last. So for me, giving myself that inner sense of permission to do things a little bit differently, or to acknowledge myself, or to brag about things, or to say, yeah, you know what, I'm a fucking awesome human being and I do
Mm.
love myself, in a society that maybe doesn't perpetuate that as often as it should. So giving yourself that permission slip is truly setting yourself free from the shackles of who you thought you needed to be, so you can actually just be who you are.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. And it's like a weight off the shoulders. I remember when I like used to just like run around and I felt like I'm putting my shoulders up to my ears if you're listening, not watching, Walnut, but like I used to feel so like closed in and highly strung and really just ugh. And now I feel like I just walk around like a silly banana, like, but it's me, it's myself, it's no effort necessary. I just own and accept, and I'm so much happy with it. And it actually has created a life somewhat of a lot of ease. Quite like, I mean, I still get stressed and all the things, but it's so much more relaxing than like feeling so uptight and for others, like when you're just doing you. Would you agree?
I totally agree, and I'm obsessed with the silly banana. That is the best thing I've ever heard.
I don't even know where the banana thing came from. Again, it was like this word vomit where I can't even remember what I was saying, but something about a banana. I use lots of silly terminologies. It's just what rolls off the tongue. um, Efia, let's talk about your business and something that you speak about quite a lot, which is the V.I.B.E.S method. Um, I need to know all the goss. Tell me from A to B, not A to B, from all the way to the finish line. What? Let's go. V.I.B.E.S method.
Yes, so essentially, after that experience I told you around 2015 was when I created my first ever vision board, and I was seeing all the things that I'd put on there actually come to fruition, actually come to life, and that was a very exciting time for me. And that was really the beginning of my conscious manifestation journey. And in 2018, having seen all the incredible results that I got from that first vision board, I was like, okay, let's create another vision board. And I'd put all these things on there. And then when I looked back on it a couple of years later, I realized that none of the things on the vision board had manifested. And when I considered why that was, what I realized is that I hadn't actually wanted many of the things that I'd put on there. And that I thought, oh, if I have a certain number of followers, this will make me look good. Or, ooh, I've seen this other person has this, maybe I should have this. Or, ooh, other people back home have these things. This is what I should have at my age. But when I thought about what I truly wanted and the vision I wanted for myself, those things were out of alignment for me. And I think in the manifestation space that there's a tendency to encourage people to set an intention, take action, set an intention, take action. But for me, what felt like the missing piece is that actually before setting the intention and taking action, that there's something much more important, which is who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? And I felt that was really missing. So the vibes method really encompasses that idea of embodiment and going through those steps of manifestation from a scientific, spiritual, and also strategic perspective. So the step one of the vibes method is embodying the vibe of your higher self. And that goes to the vision and also what are my values? How often do we ask ourselves the question, what are my values? It's not just something that a company has or a conglomerate has, it's something that we humans have. And if you don't know your values, then of course you're going to manifest things or go against what your values actually are. So it's really important to know that and have this deep understanding of yourself and to begin living from that place and not waiting for like one day when I have this or one day when I hit this goal, that's when I'm actually going to start showing up as the person who I want to be. You have to start showing up as the person who you want to be now. And if you are seeing that there's a large gap between who you want to be and how you're actually living, then it's time to make some serious changes. Moving on from there, we go into the second step, which is setting powerful intentions. And already having gone through step one, you're in a much more powerful position to set those intentions are
Mm.
actually in alignment because you know what your values are. Building on from that, you can check your you can check your intentions for integrity, and you can make sure that you are really learning about the relationship between your conscious and subconscious mind. So when you are goal setting, it's not just like, oh, this would be nice, or oh, one day. It's actually something that you're committing to. It's not just a wish. And then we go into energetic blocks and boundaries. So we're like, yes, this is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I want to have. Normally, what happens when people have done all of that work is then this is when everything comes to the surface. This is when all the reasons of why you couldn't or why you shouldn't, or no, people will think a certain way about me if I do get it. People will think a certain way of me if I don't get it. This is
Mm.
when all the stories are going to come up. So doing that limiting belief work and acknowledging that those limiting beliefs are going to come up no matter how successful you deem yourself to be, no matter how much work you deem yourself to have done, they're going to continue to come up. But what's different is about the relationship that you have with them and how you let them impact you as part of your journey. And then the other part of that is also boundaries and saying, this is what I'm available for, this is what matters to me, this is what's important to me, and this is what I'm closing doors to, this is what I'm no longer available to, whether that's people, experiences, places, whatever it is that no longer makes sense to you, and standing really tall in that. I think it's something that's grossly under talked about. It is grossly under talked. I don't know what the word I'm going for is. We don't talk about it enough in the manifestation community. That's what I'm getting at. A little word blurb. But yeah, essentially, I don't think we talk about boundaries enough. I think it's so important. I think one of the ways that we can stand in our power truly is by having those firm boundaries and not just having a boundary, but actually enforcing that boundary. I used to
Mm.
feel really uncomfortable around this. And I think women in particular don't want to be seen as, oh, well, if I do this, I'm going to be seen as bossy or I'm going to be seen as a bitch. And I think that we have to release those stories and know that we deserve to live a life in alignment with what we want just because we exist, not because we have done anything extra to deserve it. And then from there, we go into let's take some action and balancing your feminine and masculine energy. So you can do that with a blend of strategy and also following your intuition. What am I being led to? What am I being guided to? How is my relationship with my intuition at the moment? And if I can't hear that intuition voice, how can I develop that? And also develop that sense of trust in myself. And then finally, we come to surrendering the how, which is the S of the V.I.B.E.S method. And that really looks at the process of detachment and not making the things that you do or don't manifest mean anything about you as a human, and still being really excited to bring these to life, but also knowing that it doesn't have to have such a weighting about who you are as a person or what you're going on to achieve, right? Your previous results are not the only indicator of where you're going in the future. And we need to break that feedback loop so that you can really bring in those next level vision. And even if it isn't a next level vision, something that has happened in the past doesn't need to keep perpetuating in the future, but you have to be willing to surrender those old stories in order to move forward.
Mm. Oh, Oh my gosh, there was just so many powerful things within that whole method that I can't even remember one specific one. Thank you so much for your passion and for actually creating this, because there is so much depth to what I wish we had like longer to go through everyone, like, but with a microscope. I imagine like your clients' results and things like that are like out of this world magical. Um, I was thinking, however, for the walnut that doesn't know, how would you describe what manifestation actually is?
I would describe manifestation as the process of bringing thought into physical form.
Mm,
So let's say that you have the idea, oh, I would love to start a business. That could stay just an idea, that could stay a wish. Or you could research business ideas. You could maybe hire a business coach. You could buy your website. You start taking your clients, you get your first customers. That's you actually manifested it. So a big part of manifesting is taking action. And it's also the belief work. It is also setting those intentions, and it's also getting right in your values as well.
lovely. Yes, that's a very good description. I wouldn't have been able to think of of better sentences structured together. Um, Efia, I always ask all my guests on the podcast, because I'm really looking forward to what you have to say. What does being a walnut mean to you?
I think it means taking radical responsibility. In order to have the courage to pursue your dreams, you need to take responsibility for where you are right now and where you want to go. And in doing that, that means that you have to let go of some of the blame of external circumstances and of people for the way that your life is right now, or why things haven't worked out. And although some of the things in your past may not have been your fault, or they may have happened to you, you are the only one that has the power to change how you feel about them or what is going to happen in your life moving forward. I think taking that radical responsibility is very similar to placing a crown upon your head, because it's just like, I'm fully stepping into this and I'm owning it.
Oh, I actually have a little tear in my eye from that description of being a walnut. I really love that, Efia. Thank you. And it really does link to like what you said earlier. Like you are a testament of that description, because you were saying, you know, I'm deciding not to be a person, be a victim of my circumstances, which yeah, is taking that radical responsibility and choosing yourself over all the other things. So that's really, oh, really beautiful. I'm actually a little bit mush. Do you have a time where you've walnutted or had to be brave that you know is a part of your story that you feel like sharing with the walnuts and with your audience as well?
That's I think there are many parts of my journey, and I think perhaps one of the most profound moments was actually after my mom passed away. And it was actually quite a shock, although my mom had been ill for quite some time. You know, you just go through that, oh my goodness, I don't know what now. And more than just going through, I've lost a parent. At that time, when I had like no other family, I was like, oh shit, I really don't know what's actually going to happen next in my life. um and at that point in time, you know, I had been someone who had to become quite independent at a young age, because not only was I like looking after myself, but I was also helping to look after my mom from like 10 years old. So I had lost like a great deal of my childhood, and I had felt like I have to do things by myself, for myself. And I remember at that time, like finding out that my mom had passed away, and it was at midnight that we found out, and then we were actually getting ready to go to school the next day. And it's 8 a.m. and I remember standing in my living room, and I phoned my friend's mom because I didn't know who else to phone. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. And then my friend's mom came around. She's like, don't worry about anything. I just, you know, I am going to look after you. Don't worry about things. And because of that phone call, we actually ended up living with my friend's mom for the next 3 years until we went to university. So, you know, having the courage to say, I don't know, or I need help, I think is also a really powerful part of your journey. Like, yes, take responsibility, but sometimes taking that responsibility means asking for help.
Mm. Oh, I've got goosebumps. I'm so sorry for all the things you've been through, but I'm so proud of you for being so brave and for taking that radical responsibility and really deciding to love yourself as well. So, good on you. um, where can the walnuts find you? I didn't even ask. Where do you hang out on the onlines and all the things if people want to connect with you more?
Yes, I mean, I'm hanging out everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, Efia Sulter _. You can find my podcast, the Manifest Edit podcast. And I also do free 5-day virtual manifestation retreats where I walk people through the 5 steps of the V.I.B.E.S method and also how to integrate it and implement it into your life. So if you want to check out the next one of those, you can head to efiasulter.com/freebie. Our next one will be kicking off in February, and we do them every quarter.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I will put that in the show notes. That sounds so much fun. I love that idea. I didn't even know that you did like little retreat things. That's great. Awesome. Have you got any other things that you're kind of like in the pipeline of creating that we can expect from you aside from in February?
Yeah, so I do. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky. I haven't talked about this anywhere else yet, but I
Oh,
do have
don't
a
no pressure if you don't want
yeah.
to.
Shh. Over the next couple of weeks, I do actually have a Manifest Your Extraordinary Year workshop coming out. So that's going to be all around going into 2022 strong, like the queen that you are, building that sense of resilience when things don't necessarily go to plan, which is something we have all seen we need over the past couple of years. And just really bringing that spiritual and strategic element to planning your most epic year yet.
I love this inside scoop, and that sounds absolutely delicious. Thank you so much for giving us the goss there.
You are so welcome.
Just before we wrap up, Efia, is there anything on your heart that you feel like you haven't said? If there is a walnut out there just feeling like an absolute piece of butthole and just wants to be sad and all the things, is there anything that you feel like you need to say?
I think sometimes it's okay to be sad for a little while. And I think from time to time that I visit the sadness, I just make the distinction not to live there. So when you find yourself saying a little bit too long, just kind of bring yourself back to the present moment and do something that's going to change your state, whether that's going to the gym, some breath work, shaking your body. I love dancing. Dancing is one of my favorite things. Just change things up a little bit, even if only for 5 minutes, you force yourself to get up and do something. You'll be amazed how much changing your physiology impacts how you actually feel on the inside as well.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm a big fan of moving the energy around, because when it gets stuck in there, you start to realize why you're behaving a certain way. And yeah, it's funny. Thank you so much for that deliciousness, and thank you, Efia, so much for your time today, and for letting us get to know you, and for sharing your story so openly and vulnerably and deliciously. I've actually had a really wonderful conversation.
Oh, me too.
Um, so Walnut, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share on your story and tag us. I will pop all of the details in the show notes so you can jump in on the February retreat and potentially even the workshop that's coming up at the end of the year, secret, all the things. And we would love to hear from you, I'm sure. So if you have any questions, yeah, get in touch with the both of us. And Efia, again, thank you so much for visiting Walnut Wednesday and for your time. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know you today.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.